Hello, I'm Dr. R.P. Narmata, Associate Professor of AI&DS Department of Kalainar Karnanidhi Institute of Technology, Coimbatore. Today, I am going to give a brief introduction on the subject data visualization. Today's contents will be definition, advantages, disadvantages, the 7 stages of data visualization, different types of data visualization, comparison between chart, plots, and maps. So, first, let us look into the definition of data visualization. What is data visualization? It is nothing but the graphical representation of information and data. When you see a data in the form of text or numbers, it might be very complex to understand. So, the data could be represented in the graphical manner, which becomes very easy to understand. Transforming the raw data into visual forms like charts, graphs, and maps. So, which makes a complex data to be understandable, accessible, and actionable. So, this is the definition of data visualization. Why data visualization? By using visual elements like charts, graphs, and maps, data visualization tools provide an accessible way to see and understand the trends, outliers, and patterns in the data. So, in the world of big data today, data visualization tools and techniques are highly essential for analyzing the massive amount of information and for making the data decisions in a quicker way. So that is why we are in need of data visualization. Now, let us look the advantages of data visualization. So the first advantage is improved understanding and insight. So when the data is very complex in the other form, it is could not be easier to viewers to get the understandability. So you need a clarity in reading your data. So you when the data is represented in an easy way through a graphical manner, it gives you a clarity from complexity. And when it is being taken into a easy comprehension, it becomes a quicker understandable. So that is what is the first advantage. And the second advantage is faster decision making. Suppose you wanted to represent your data in the form of visual, it is represented in the visual. During the weather forecast in the rainy season, if the weather forecast is represented through maps, ev- it makes many of us to make a quick decision on the weather forecast that we peep into. So the second foremost advantage is faster decision making. And the third advantage is identification of the pattern or the trend or the outliers of the particular data that is used for representation. And the fourth advantage is it is enhancing the communication between the viewer and the presenter. It enhances the communication and the storytelling. Suppose a visual tool is used to represent in an organization to brief about the quarterly or an annual uh, sales or a product profit to be in a storyline manner. It becomes very easy to present the information. That is the fourth advantage. And the next advantage is even the non technical audiences could be very easy to grasp when the data is represented in the visual form. Suppose a cricket score is represented through a graph, the viewers could be easier to understand the performance of an individual batsman or a bowler of the previous match and the current match. What is their performance scoreboard? How they are being better in the current uh, match. So it could be very easy and accessible for a non-technical audiences also. And the next advantage is better exploration and discovery. So it gives a better exploration of the data, which is in the form of visual. And the last advantage is performance monitoring. It's a very good tool to uh, monitor the performance of an individual or a group. Suppose a student's performance could be graded between the 2 semesters. When it is represented through a chart, it could give us a good measure of understanding the performance of an individual or a group, where the performance could be improved or not. So these are some of the advantages of using data visualization. Next, we will look into the drawbacks of data visualization. Everything which is used in a wrong manner, it gives a drawback of the particular software or a tool. Likewise, the drawbacks of data visualization is, the first drawback is potential for misleading information. So, what is like here the misleading information is when the visual used in a poorly manner. The design that is used to represent the data is not in a right way. For example, inappropriate chart types or a skewed axis, inconsistent scales, or misleading color palettes can easily distort the data and lead to incorrect conclusion. So the poor design choices also can mislead the information. And also, so deliberate manipulation. So, visualization can be intentionally designed to mislead the audiences either by exaggerating the minor trends or downplaying the significant issues. So, that also may have a misleading information. And when the data is too much simplified in a huge volume of data, complex relationships or a nonsense in the data might be the visualization to be simplified, leading to incomplete understanding. So, the drawback here is these are the reasons for a misleading information, which are the prime drawback of data visualization. And the next drawback is information overload or clutter. When the too much of data on a single visualization or too much of use of color or labels which are unnecessary for a graphical element can lead to a cluttered and unreadable chart, defeating the purpose of clarity. When there is a clutter or an information overload, that may be a drawback of a data visualization. It might not give you a clear clarity in understanding the data that is represented, and it requires a good data quality. So, garbage in and garbage out here is very important. Underlying the data is inaccurate, incomplete, or inconsistently formatted. The visualization also be flawed and potentially misleading. So, data cleaning is a prerequisite before it is being presented. And for an effective visualization, time may be more. That may be also sometimes a drawback here. Creating a truly effective, insightful, and aesthetically pleasing visualization for a complex data set can require a significant time, skill, and specialized software. So, that may be also one of the drawback. Risk of misinterpretation by the audience. Even though the visual elements or the model that is being represented gives you a clarity, a well designed visualization can also misinterpret the audience because of the lack of context, especially during the pandemic time. It the understanding of the information or the context may be poor, so that can also misinterpret the audience, or a specific knowledge to understand the type or its implications is highly necessary. So this is a drawback in your data visualization. So we have seen the advantages and the drawbacks in data visualization. Moving on to the methodology, like before the methodology, the methods that is used in a data visualization, the author of the book Data Visualization has chosen the different stages can be adopted in the methodology for an effective data visualization. He has categorized the 7 stages how a data visualization can be used. So the first stage is your acquire stage, acquiring the data. That is nothing but where we are going to collect the data, obtaining the data from various sources. So where the data that is acquired to visualize, whether in the files, databases, or APIs. This involves identifying the source and format of the data where we are going to collect the data. So that is the first stage of data visualization. The next stage is parse, parsing. Parsing is nothing but structuring or formatting the data that is being collected. Parsing may be uh, used to collect the data in the form of XML, in the form of text, or in the form of JSON. Any raw data formats has to be structured in the form of table or arrays. So format parsing is the next stage in your data visualization. And the third stage is filtering. Filtering is nothing but cleaning and handling the misleading data, is selecting the relevant subsets of data to the relevant visualization purpose is called to be a filtering. And the fourth stage is mining. Mining is nothing but using a statistical pattern, that is aggregation and correlation analysis in the data that is being taken for visual is called to be a mining. And the fifth stage is through which model, visual model, you are going to represent your data. That is, it could be a bar chart, line chart, or a scatter plot. Uh, how you are going to represent your data. This is about mapping the data dimensions, visual variables like position, size, color, and shape. This is where you decide the type of graph, chart, plot, or a map. So, which visual model you are going to use to represent it. So, that is what is here. The fifth stage is. And the sixth stage is refine. So, even though you have taken the right model to represent it, it has to be refined, that is giving more clarity on the data model that you have used, has to give enhancing visual representation for a clarity through aesthetics and engagement. By choosing the right color and giving proper labels in the way that is going to be represented. This involves aesthetic consideration, adding labels, legends, and making decision choices that enhance the readability. So the sixth stage is refine. And adding on to the last stage is your interact, how the other features are to be added to make it more exploration to be highly impact, like zooming, filtering, adding the tool tips, and making your visual representation to be more communication communicatable. Like for example, like when the user sees the particular representation, it make them to it gives a clear understanding of the visual element that is represented. This is your interaction stage. So in the book Data Visualization by Ben Frey, uh, he has taken all these seven stages for taking the data visualization in each different form. In acquiring, that is nothing but where we are going to collect the data, the source, the data to be collected, and the parsing, the structure, and or the formatting the data into table and arrays. And the third is filtering, that is cleaning and handling the misleading data. And fourth is mining, making a statistical measure like aggregation and correlation of the data used for representing it, that is for mining it. And the fourth is representing it, the right model to represent your visual in the form of chart, graph, plot, or map. And your sixth stage is your refine, that is making more enhancement of the data visual, like adding colors and labels in a proper way, your right design choices for enhancing the readability. And the seventh stage is interact, making more the communication very easier. So the objectives of choosing visualization are giving a good clarity. So the visualization should be easy to understand and interpret without ambiguity. And it has to give a good accuracy, even though it is represented with good visual, it has to give the good accuracy without any distortion or misinterpretation. And efficiency, like it should convey information quickly and effectively, minimizing the cognitive load. And insightfulness, it reveal the patterns or trends or outliers to be in a right way and apparent in the raw data as it is. So these are the objectives that is very, very important. And engagement, it has to give the audience attention and encourage the exploration. And intent, purpose, and help users to make informed decisions. So it has to serve the intent purposes. And aesthetics, while not sole focus, an aesthetically pleasing visualization can enhance engagement and readability. These are the quite few objectives in choosing data visualization. So this diagram depicts the different types of visualization when it is used for comparison, relationships, composition, and distribution. So your charts, graphs can be used for all these purposes of where and how it has to be used. So this is what is this diagram shows the different types of visualizations in the form of charts and graphs, like it could be a pie, bar, column, line, area, donut, bubble, spider and ladder, scatter, comparison charts, stacked bar chart, and gauges. These are the few visual models represented here. There are many more when it is being taken into for choosing the right to represent it. Now let us look into the few difference between the chart and the plot. So the features that is being taken into consideration are the primary focus, their typical data, common usage, connotation, and examples. So, what would be the prime focus is charts can be used for comparison and composition. For example, when two different student marks could be taken for comparing the performance. In that way, the charts can be used to represent it. In a whole class, the performance could be monitored by using a chart. Whereas in relationships, in a family, how the relationships are being into, that could be taken into do through your plots. And in composition, the charts can be used for your representation. And here, the distribution, for example, the sales growth in a particular region in a state, in, for example, in the distribution in India, in Mumbai, in Chennai, in Kolkata, in other regions, how that is being made. So that could be taken in plot. And categorical and aggregated way of representing could be taken in chart, whereas a continuous raw data could be taken for a statistical way of analysis can be made in your plot. The common usage can be used for business reports, and here dashboards, for example, storytelling in your organization, whereas plots is mainly used for scientific measures and scientific research, especially for a data analysis. And connotations is more here is general, and you are it gives you a clear illustrative communication. Here of more specific scientific way of analysis is required. Whereas here the examples would be a bar chart, pie chart, an area chart. And here it could be a scatter plot, line plot on Instagram. So these are quite the differences between your chart and plot. It it is up to a, a individual to choose for which application a chart and a plot depends on the uh, application they are used for, that particular data that is being used for representing it. Next, moving on to the maps. So, what are maps? Maps are nothing but the graphical representation of geographical areas used to visualize data that is associated with specific locations, regions, or movements. Maps are especially used in geographical areas. Example is your weather forecasting maps. That is, they leverage our innate understanding of space to mark the spatial data immediately comprehensible. So, uh, when a state is represented in the form of map, it is very comprehensive to understand which part of the state is rainy or a sunny. For example, the primary focus of map visualization is to reveal spatial patterns, distributions, and relationships that might be invisible in other forms of data representation. So, maps are mainly for revealing the spatial patterns. So, they are used for geographical distribution, that is, showing where phenomena occur, or a population density is higher, or where sometimes a scarcity is higher, a water scarcity or some scarcity is higher, and there is a outbreaks in certain diseases, and the retail store locations in different parts of the country, like that. And spatial analysis, where the hotspots and the cold spots are available. And location based insights, suppose you all very well about the Google Map, how the directions and navigations are provided to us, and how the customers are uh, taking their travel for a transport. And for example, another example, where the pollution is higher in the region for particular country or a continent. Movement and flow, tracking the origins and destinations, migrations and patterns, or a trade routes using the maps could be more easier than the other form of data. The readability becomes very easier, and the resource allocation is nothing but planning for a logistics, infrastructure development, or an emergency response could be easier when it is shown in the form of map. So, summing up, in today's session, we saw the definition, the advantages, and the drawbacks, the stages of data visualization, and the comparison between the chart and plots, and what is a map, and how, where the maps are getting to be used. So, thank you. Thank you for your patient listening.